Welcome to the first of our online Lenten devotionals, Creative Spiritual Practice. I'm so glad that you can join us. There's going to be a recognizable flow to our time, and so I want to just lay that out for you on our first day. We will always begin with a little practice of God's presence. It's kind of a very Ignatian thing to do, and I will just lead us kind of through a little litany where I'll pause in between and give you a moment to kind of let the intention of the prayer to kind of settle in. Then we'll go to scripture, and I will give you the citation, but we'll ask that you don't look it up. I will read the scripture or the sacred reading through twice, and give it time for your soul to absorb it and for you to appreciate it. As we're going through the scripture, I'm going to ask you to listen for a prayer word, something that you'll use in our silence. And it's going to change day to day. So see what bubbles up for you as a prayer word. And also I'm going to ask that you focus on a phrase. You might hear it the first time through the reading. It might take till the second time until a phrase kind of jumps out at you. And I want you to write both your prayer word and then your phrase down in your journal, so that you'll have it as we go to our creative embodiment, that fun part of this process for this Lent. So we practice the presence. We'll hear our scripture. You're going to enter into a time of silence. You will have picked a prayer word to use for that silence, and then a text. Most often, the text that you're going to want to write down or keep track of is only going to be a phrase. It's only going to be a few words. You're not going to try to write down a whole verse or much less a paragraph. So it'll be something brief. And so after we go through those steps, then we're going to take some time for our creative embodiment. And what is that going to be? So for each of us, it's going to be different. Some of us will maybe write a sentence or two that's like a journal entry. Maybe some of us will draw an image or a shape or whatever it is. Some of us will go a little farther. My intent is to use watercolor pens, which is it looks like a marker except it has a brush tip on it and it's watercolor. And I intend to respond as I'm able with those. Maybe that's a medium that you're familiar with and that's what you would like to do. Maybe you have colored pencils. Maybe you just like to draw with graphite, just a pen and an eraser, or pencil and eraser. Maybe you like to use ink or a calligraphy pen. I am encouraging you to choose a medium or even two, and each day as you're sitting and thinking about your text and letting the Spirit work with it, that then you'll pick up whatever medium that you have already prepared and use that to create something. As I said in some of our publicity for the class, we are not working on masterpieces here. We are not trying to finish a drawing. We are simply trying to respond creatively from that underused right brain of ours to what we hear. And I hope in that way to deepen our understanding and our application of our sacred text or our scripture or whatever we're going to hear for the day. Because at the end, after we have practiced the presence and heard the scripture and spent time in silence and written or held on to our prayer word and written down our text and done something creative, then we have two other just little things to do that'll be very quick, but I think they're important. We're going to decide each day if there's something from our experience that we want to offer or give. That could be as simple as a compliment to somebody, or noticing somebody that that's our offering. What can we offer from this? Or on the other end of the spectrum, maybe our text has caused us to consider something we might want to refrain from doing or fast from for that day. So our text is about feeding the hungry. So maybe in identification, I give money to someone who's asking for it on the street, or maybe I just don't have lunch that day, or don't have a donut that day, or whatever it is. So there's going to be action points throughout our month. And even if we don't get around to doing them all, I think if we record them in our journals and can go back and look over our journals and relive this experience, then there might be another day that we'll be able to do what the scripture asked of us in this time that we have spent together. So that's kind of our outline. And I hope that you'll find meaning in one or two of these pieces as we practice them day by day, and I hope they become familiar. And I surely hope that you have your journal all ready, and maybe even have your pages all dated and just ready to fill in. So on the website and on the Facebook page, there is, under a section called Notes, a page that you can download and print for yourself that gives the outline for every day, so that just because I am so familiar with it, I've already gone through the 40 days, it's easy for me to go through these steps. But if you're the kind of person who needs to look at that, I hope you'll download that note and make a copy of it so that you feel comfortable. I don't want you to be ill at ease as we go through our time together. So I hope you'll download it and take a look at it and get familiar with the flow of presence and scripture and silence and prayer word and text and creative embodiment, whatever that is for you. And then as we move on to what are we going to offer, what are we going to give, or what are we going to refrain from, what are we going to fast from, I think it's a wonderful flow and a different way to digest, to come into the presence of God, maybe different than what we're used to. So I am so glad you're here, and thanks for being here. God bless.